Hey everyone, it's 2020. The last review I did was of the mixed reality headsets, which sadly most of them went out of production. The same thing with the Oculus Rift and the HTC Vive. So not counting the premium headsets like the Index or the Vive Pro or the Pimax. These are the three headsets on the market right now that I've used, and these are my thoughts on them. The Samsung Odyssey Plus, which is Windows Mixed Reality. It's one of the few that's still left. The Oculus Rift S, and the Oculus Quest with an Oculus Link cable. So I'm going to talk right now about the Samsung Odyssey Plus. Now, this was the premium Windows Mixed Reality headset when it came out, and right now it's pretty much the only Windows Mixed Reality headset that's still out. Does that mean it's bad? No, it's actually a really good headset. The screens in it are basically the same as what you would find in a Vive Pro or even the Quest. It's the same resolution as those screens, and on paper, the same resolution as a Valve Index. The difference between screens that are in this, the Vive Pro, and the Quest versus the Valve Index is all these ones use pentile OLED screens. So while the OLED gives really nice colors, the pentile pixel matrix in these headsets increases the screen door effect and overall lowers the image quality and clarity. What this headset did to try to solve that was they added a anti-screen door effect layer, and this kind of blurred the pixels so everything looks smooth. In nice visual sort of experiences, this is a headset that I really enjoy using. The downside to this is that anti-screen door effect filter adds a slight blur. While I find this quite pleasant to use, some people I've heard don't really enjoy that. They prefer to have it like sharp and crisp. So that is something that's a bit of a personal preference. I like it, and I like having smooth colors and no visible black lines pretty much at all. And this headset delivers in that aspect. But things aren't like super sharp, so that's a trade-off with this. Compare this to something like the original Vive or the Oculus Rift. This is better in every way. It's actually sharper, and you get no screen door effect. But compared to the current market, while you get virtually no screen door effect, it isn't the sharpest display out right now. One nice thing about this headset is that it does have a mechanical IPD adjustment for the distance between your eyes. So that allows this to have a pretty good range, fitting a lot of different people. The lenses themselves are quite good, but not the best compared to the other headsets we have here. The sweet spot is quite small, so the position where this has to be on your head has to be pretty precise, otherwise things will start to blur. As well as the lenses themselves, the range of clarity is a bit lower than some of the other headsets. It's clear in the middle, but then as you go off, it starts to blur if you try to look around. But overall, it's pretty good. Very comparable lens-wise to the Vive. The FOV of this is actually quite good for a headset of this price. It's pretty much on par with the Vive and the Vive Pro. The Rift and the Quest is slightly smaller, so this does come out a little bit on top in that way. For audio, you can see it has built-in headphones, but it also has two microphones. It has one here and one here. And what that allows is, with the two microphones, it does a noise cancellation system, so it can better pick up your voice and not pick up things around it. So in terms of audio, this is better than both the Rift S and the Quest. I'm a big fan of the Halo design. I found that with other headsets, even the Vive with the deluxe audio strap, more often than not, I prefer the Halo design. It just really balances things well, usually. The Rift S and my Lenovo Explorer were really good for balancing the weight. This does not. They tried, but it's not balanced well, and I found that most of the weight goes like right up here and also like right on the front of this face pad. And this face pad is not soft. This is like a hard face pad. I don't know why they designed it like this. So I found that within an hour, 2 hours of using this headset the way it came, I would get headaches. Now, luckily, this can be solved with modifications or aftermarket things that you can buy. The face pad, there's a replacement one from VR Cover, which is nice and thick with like that fake leather, and it also covers up any sort of light bleed. So it solves that hard spot and it solves any light bleed. As well, some companies make a comfort strap for the top that helps balance things a lot better. Without that, I found this always slid forward and pressed into my forehead. I would definitely recommend, if you were to go for this, to either look at buying or making some sort of a strap to help balance the weight, as well as getting that replacement face pad. When it comes to the controllers and the tracking, it's Windows Mixed Reality. We all know by now it's not the best, but it's not bad. The controllers themselves are good enough. That's pretty much it. They're good enough. It's got 2 joysticks, 2 thumb pads, and then like trigger buttons and grip buttons. And you can play pretty much every game with them. It's just not the best way to play. Your hand gestures, usually in games and things, are just kind of selected on the trackpad. It's good enough, but you get what you pay for. Tracking wise, it's inside out tracked, and it does all of that with just these 2 cameras on the front. It has nothing on the sides, and that's all it uses. So when it comes to tracking, you have your accurate tracking in the front and a bit out to the side. If you want to reach behind you, you can. You can reach behind you, but you have to be like moving. Otherwise, if you just go slow, you'll lose tracking and it'll get locked in place. It's good enough that you'll play most games and you won't notice it, but if you start to play anything competitive or something that requires a lot of like reaching behind you and stuff, you'll start to notice it. It'll still work and you can play them, but the tracking won't be 100% reliable. Something else that I would like to touch on with the controllers is the latency. The controller latency in Windows Mixed Reality is not that great in comparison to other headsets. If Windows Mixed Reality is all you've ever used, you won't notice it and you won't think of it at all, because it does track close enough to 1-to-1 that if it's all you've used, it seems perfect. But if you start to use other headsets and then come back to it, you start to feel things are just slightly off. It's a minute distance between the tracking accuracy being 1-to-1 that it'll start to feel like things are slightly floaty. So if you're playing like competitive Beat Saber, this is not the headset for it. You can get pretty close. It does good for what it is, but it's not perfect. As a budget headset, this goes above and beyond. It's only $230, which again is a lot, but in the world of VR, that is quite cheap, especially for something that does so much. It does have its downfalls of the controller latency and just general tracking, not being able to compete with the top tier headsets. But that doesn't mean it's bad or you'll even notice it if this is what you use primarily. I went 2 years with Windows Mixed Reality and absolutely loved it. I was playing Beat Saber, I was playing VR chat, I was just going off playing everything, and I loved it. And really, if this is your first headset, $230, it's quite a good deal. You'll enjoy it, you'll love it. Just beware, it's not the best. but it does offer some pretty nice stuff for its package and what you pay for. One note, if you do get Windows Mixed Reality, when you go to install it, you install the Windows Mixed Reality portal, you install Steam VR, and you also need to go into Steam VR, search up Windows Mixed Reality for Steam VR in the Steam store, and install that as well. It won't work on Steam VR unless you have that installed. Once you have that, then it works perfectly on Steam VR.